Right, I think we're all good. So, hello everybody. Welcome to, oh god, this is probably the 23rd or 24th live stream, I think now, something like that. Again, sorry for being a bit late. Seems to be a recurring theme. Not as late as I was yesterday though, so that's something. Today we're kind of just going to be going through the Jira board and prioritising new tasks, since I've actually run through the backlog of tasks that I had prioritised. Mainly due to the fact that this was kind of one of our large feature pushes, getting kind of all the prop stuff sorted and also getting version control working on Matthew's machine. So we've kind of hit a point where we need to replan and reevaluate slightly now what I'm going to be doing in what I consider my next sprint. So that's why I've just kind of got the Jira board up here. So we're just going to have a look through this and see if there's anything that really stands out. There's nothing in the prepared phase other than stuff that I need to do on the side, so this admin stuff. This doesn't have a deadline until sometime, yeah, by Friday. So we've got time to get that sorted. We have all of these UI features. These aren't actually something that I need to touch just yet. This is just something that Matthews needs to work on over the next few weeks. There is this large feature here, which I'm reluctant to work on for a number of reasons, because it will be a large undertaking and could break a lot of the base code. I'm going to leave that for now. There is, however, placement rotations. This is one thing that could be, I'd say could be quite important. This basically would just allow you to rotate props around at certain intervals, but I'm not sure what degree of freedom I want to allow that to have just yet. More than likely it will just be 90 degrees to begin with, but there might be finer degrees of motion within that. So there's nothing else in the approved stage currently. Let's just have a look over here. Physics is something that will be quite important moving forward, so I might need to get that working, but I'm still having issues with that. Changeable skins, it's a proposed feature. We don't know if we actually want or need it yet. It's not minimum viable product, so we'll ignore that for now. Marketing, website. Control scheme is something that we need to look at once everything is done, so that can be put on the back burner for now. I don't want to implement a menu just yet because it will actually add some overhead in terms of testing the engine. What I'll do is I'll approve a few things and then I guess I can work on it moving forward. So I'll look at all of the kind of prop features that are essential for AI that are in currently. I'll also look at our epics document as well and see if anything stands out. So there's this navigation mesh, that'll be quite important I think moving forward, but it's not something I need to worry about immediately. Guess I could work on the prefab system, that's something that's quite important as well. all of this stuff, but again, this isn't essential right now, so I'm going to leave it. So I really need to decide what the most important things are. I'll run you what my thinking is at the moment. So AI is kind of the most important feature in getting our game to be visually kind of impressive, and also something that people I think can really see themselves playing. Because without AI it's kind of a bit dead, there's not really much to show there. So I might start working on some base AI features. Some of them, some of them might be a bit difficult, so what I'm going to do is just going to write all of them out into the Jira. Close that off. Get as many of them written up as possible, and then I'll prioritize them from there. Oh, excuse me. I've got a big sneeze. I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. So, turn that off because I am doing dependencies as I go. In fact, yeah, what I'll do is I'll just spend some time today typing up a lot of these features. It's something that I need to do anyway, so I will just go through, take you through the process of what I do, how I kind of prioritize stuff. So, let's see. So one thing that I wanted to point out as in terms of the difference of, so we have save editor and scene editor. So under the hood these will essentially work the same. We're just loading in voxel, prop and entity data based on the scene and also what the states all of those things are in, because the editor will also be able to edit the states of things as well. And save, the only real difference will be that save is something that users will generate as they play the game, and the scene editor is something that essentially is the same thing but with base environments and base setups that the user or we have made ourselves. So there's not really any tech difference there other than the way that we present that to the user. So I'll cross those off. And this is all we're doing at this stage. I'm simply putting the tasks in Jira. So long as I know what they are, and it's fine. Excuse me. So, right, so the next thing is the voxel navigation mesh. This one's quite important. I don't think I populated any AI controller tasks. So the voxel navigation mesh is something that I'm actually going to have to generate myself. It's going to be quite important to making sure AI can actually get around the scene. Obviously we're using a dynamic world, so we can't really just bake the navigation mesh as such. We have to be able to update it in real time. I'm going to have to come up with a way to store all of that information. I think I have a good idea of how to do it. I'm going to use a node, kind of like a node-based system where each voxel space is a potential node. And then it's going to be a linked list in the sense that it can have multiple links to adjacent spaces. And those links will signify whether or not a pathway is clear to something else. So we have needs. So the needs could be something like you're hungry or you need water. We also have this thing called statistics signposting. So this basically just means a way for characters to express their needs. We don't know if this is a feature that will actually make it in the game, but it is something that we are considering to kind of add to that stylized look and feel. So if I already know how to quickly summarize this, I'll just call it needs signposting. I guess to me it makes sense. I can always update it at a later date, but right now it's not too important. So there's the priority system. So this will take the needs of the AI and it will make decisions based on that. It will kind of order what things are the most priority in its hierarchy. And then there's the decision system, which will perform actions based on those needs. And then there's the action system, which will execute steps to achieving goals set by the decision system. So let's tick all of those off. So they're all updated. What else have we got? So these are the things that are also kind of a big feature push. But this is kind of its own separate thing, and once it's complete, it's kind of more complete than any other feature since it's relatively simple. This could be the thing that I work on next, to be quite honest, but given the way the project is moving, I think it will be put off until after AI is complete, just because we want, rather than adding more editor features at this point, we want something to actually edit for. So AI is kind of more of a priority, and then once that's in, we will then focus on, again, upping the functionality of the editor to meet that demand. But I will still put it in anyway. So I believe I'll need another epics thing. I don't think I have a prefab section. So to explain what prefabs are to us, prefabs are essentially a collection of voxels and props that can be saved and loaded into a scene. So we'll have the actual storage of it itself. This will be dynamic, so you can kind of set it to any size and have either really tiny prefabs if you wanted to, maybe a small collection of props that you have, or maybe a hill that you've designed that you really like, or something like that. Maybe you've built like a building out of some of the voxels and you want to save that prefab. One use case that I kind of see it being really helpful for is we could build modular castles, for example, or dungeons, and then you could save all of those different pieces of prefabs and then really quickly load them into the scene. So that's one thing that I would imagine it would be most useful. So voxel prop culling means that when loading and saving prefabs, you might actually want to exclude one or the other. So you might not want to load in the voxel component, say, of a prefab, you might just want the props, and vice versa. So there's going to be the prefab mode state. This will be as simple as like updating the existing state machine that we kind of have in the system to be. So there's this part of the editor, there's a variable in there that's like, I don't remember what it's called, I think it's prop mode active or something like that, so we'll just update those variables to be like whether or not the prefab mode is active. So it'll be like an integer range rather than a boolean. So that's all of those features in. We can tick those off. I think we can close out prefabs now. So this is a feature that I've kind of decided to ditch. I don't really like the idea of it. It doesn't really add much to the game. It's not really essential. But basically what it was is you could start the world with different configurations. I think we'll still have this, but it will be in the form of different saves that we've manually set up anyway. So I will stick this in. I'll put it in content actually, that's where it makes the most sense. Base editor canvases, because that's what they are. They're kind of blank canvases for the user to populate. One thing I do need to investigate further down the road is adjustable world sizes. Now in theory these won't be too difficult because we've already got most of the code converted over to shared variables now. I'm pretty sure nearly everything has shared variables. So while it's feasibly possible on the compilation side for the engine to have bigger world sizes, I don't yet know if it's really that possible to have it be entirely dynamic at runtime. So I don't know if the game can actually support it just yet. It is something that is possible, I just don't know what the performance implications are of that yet, so it'll be something that I need to look into. So I will put this in, it's mainly a voxel feature, so I'll put it in here. There's also another thing I wanted to put in there, but I can't remember exactly what it is. I'm sure it will come to me at some point. So we'll close that now. We have the player controller, which we don't have anything populated in yet. So there's the character input controller. I don't know why I keep on. So I'm trying to avoid putting the Epic's name inside of the task list because it makes it a lot messier if you've got the same thing written over and over again. It's also unnecessary, a bit redundant. I'm trying to make this look as clean as possible. So again, we've already got input set up as well, so we don't really need to add that twice, so I'll cross that off anyway. So we have control scheme finalization and character controller. So UI variable exposure is just simply exposing all of the variables that control the character and can affect change on the character to the blueprint system that we have, so that Matthews can actually use it for things like, you know, maybe like a health bar, or that's just a simple example, but literally anything. There's a lot more actually that needs to go into the prop interactions system. So it seems like this is where the big bulk of the work goes, because this is kind of like the base system for most of this stuff. You alright? You're off now. Hang on, 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I just had to say good. Okay, so yeah, so the main bulk of the features that we have are in the prop interaction system. I don't know if I should break this out up into its own. I don't think so, because they are technically part of the same system. Just because this system is massive doesn't mean it should be broken up any further. It's just an easy way to categorize it. So we need a universal way to categorize statistics, which are like, so that could mean the needs or anything like that. Also an entity inventory. So I want to be clear, so entities, as far as we understand them right now, does mean, or at least to me anyway, I don't know about Matthews, but to me they mean things that can be props in the world, but can also be picked up by other props as well. So there might be things that have like a Boolean checkbox in them that say this is small enough to be picked up, or this is something that should be picked up. And it means we don't really want to do the Minecraft approach or the typical approach of items don't really have physical existence in the world. I like the idea that things are physical. So while they won't be physical, of course, when picked up by the player, they will be when dropped into the world, which has interesting implications, but we're not quite sure what those are just yet. So we have action prerequisites. So these are all of the things that need to be true for an action to go ahead. So this could be you need a certain object in your hand. It could be you need to have a certain amount of an item. So we have the action execution. And then we have the action result. So I've just kind of made this a bit more concise, a bit the wording kind of slightly nicer for that. But that's essentially it for that section. We then also have the prop configurator, but this is more of a UI thing. What I'm going to do is in here, I think I've already put it actually. We have the statistics manipulator, the inventory manipulator. So we have the state editor, we have the behavior editor. We also need the inventory editor. There we go. Those things can now be turned off. So like I've been saying, we want all of these things to be as simple as possible. So when it comes to being able to affect how the props work in particular, we want to be able to expose literally everything, but in a kind of nice wrapped up UI format. So behaviors mean you can kind of bring in things from our list of behaviors. So we might say have like we might have this thing is oh, I don't know, this thing is a food type, so this thing can be eaten by other things. We could have this is a predator, so it eats this type of food. We could have this can run, this can attack, even simple things like, you know, this could read or drop things on the floor, like just, you know, any action that could be possible we want to have packaged up in a nice system that can be, we don't know if it will be like a kind of drag and drop thing just yet, but we at least want to be able to change it on our end. We're not sure if we're going to push that functionality straight to the editor immediately, but it is the long-term goal. Same for the inventory editor, that'll be a bit easier than other stuff, and I think that's kind of essential for the game, being able to change what in each scene each character has and that kind of thing. So that's quite important. There's also the there's the state editor, so this is just a simple way to change variables, the starting variables for a character. So again, that's kind of like, this is something that's actually quite simple. We will more than likely want to put that in the editor pretty much as soon as possible. The only thing that we're concerned about is the behavior editor. We might give things a fixed set of behaviors initially, just in code, and then find a way to build upon that in the future. Okay, so that actually kind of does it for my section. So this I put in kind of as a temporary thing because I didn't fully understand Matthew's requirements in terms of what he wanted to do with AI. I just kind of knew what I needed him to do. So what I can do is I can go through some of these and try my best to fill in what I can. So we have the voxel cursor, so we can cross that off. Surface placement mode, we have the editor mode. We have the 3D cursor, I don't know if that's something I even put in. Ball reticule, there we go. So the 3D cursor is something that we want to exist in kind of 3D space. So I guess the smoothing indicator is specific to voxels. I think I put this in. Yeah, we need some additional things, so we need the brush size UI, we need the dominant axis highlighter. This dominant axis highlighter will likely take form of the same interface as the brush size UI, and they'll kind of be combined into one. Targeting reticle I think I might actually remove from this list. We've got the 3D ball, we don't really have a need for the targeting reticle really. But it might be useful actually saying that. I worry that it will get in the way more than anything. I don't think we need it, and since we have a 3D version of that anyway, I'll get rid of that. Yep, there we go. So we've got the toggle icons, so I'm actually going to also remove this as a thing as well, because I'm listing the toggles individually. So this is something quite important. So this is the generic drop-down selection behavior. So I will put that in shared components. So that's just kind of like a container for everything that we want to do. This I will consider part of generic drop-down stuff. Stuff that's already kind of built anyway, so it's not really that big of a deal. I'll always add it back in if we identify a specific need for that task. There's prop icons. So prop icons may be a system that I actually develop where we figure out a way to take a 3D snapshotting engine of the models that are being used, which I don't know if it's possible, but it might be. Something that I need to look into, but it's kind of a would be nice to have feature and not a we need it feature. But I'll still put it in under prop placement. There we go. We have material icons, so that'll be under here. Don't believe I have that anyway. Oh, I do? Okay. And prefab icons as well. Let's double check that. Do I even have any tasks in prefab placement? I don't think I do. Let's add something to that. There's also something that I wanted to add into shared components, and that's the general UI wrapper. There we go. Cross those off. For the menus we have we'll just call it the backdrop. I've already got nav buttons on there. Might actually rework our workflow slightly, actually thinking about it, so that one task can have both a development and a design stage, but not all of them need it, so it might not make sense. This stuff like registrar.com and .uk, they're quite important. That comes under the website. There we go. So So this is just generic stuff for my tax, basically. I need to double check that I'm actually even listed as self-employed, because while we haven't made any money yet, we will be soon, and we are registered with HMRC. But then there's, like, we're doubting whether or not I'm actually registered, even though I am listed on that registration, so we need to just call them and double check. So that will come under finance. Okay, let's cross those off. Let's go back up to the top and let's go through things now, see if there's anything that we can add off of these and then maybe cross them off. I'm going to add something to the project management tab. I'm going to say Jira rules. Also, as part of this, I'm possibly going to move some of the insomnia stuff over to networking instead, because that's what they are. I don't know why I have to click through to here on Jira, it's a bit annoying. I do wish I could just type it in straight away. Okay. Gives this tab an actual importance and kind of creates more of a distinction between what we're actually doing in our marketing efforts and actually just talking to people, which is what Insomnia is all about. If it actually goes ahead, by the way, this is another thing, a lot of events recently have been cancelled due to the coronavirus, which I think is ridiculous personally, but it has happened, so we may have to cancel all of our plans based around this event and do something completely different, so we shall see. Lost. I'm going to change this rather to upload schedule to content schedule. If it'll load. There we go. Want to be more active on these platforms actually, so within, I don't know if I should do it in I think I'll do it in networking. Within networking I'm going to do overhaul Reddit, sorry not Reddit, overhaul Discord. The other ones are fine, I think I've got them covered under other categories, so content release schedule for instance is kind of a generic catch-all for these. Okay, so that's all of that done. I think the last thing to tick off is converting this document over, in all honesty. I think that's literally it. I think I've covered everything. Let me just go through one last time. Yeah, I genuinely think this is all converted over. So while I'm not going to discard this document just yet, it's pretty much all done with. Don't think there's anything that I need from the Epics roadmap anymore, because it's all now in Jira. Which has been quite an undertaking so far. It took, you know, I think at least a week to get it all converted over. But this is just me doing it here and there. It's not something I've been doing full time, obviously, so I did a large bulk of that just now. But yeah, I think every single section is populated now with at least something, which is great. So I guess the next thing to do is basically, like, it kind of makes sense to me now to take this time to do a lot of the project management stuff that I wouldn't say has fallen to the wayside, but could be done with catching up on, simply because we're at a stage where a nice feature set has been wrapped up, and this is a time where I really can plan things a bit more, rather than having to develop features and come up with the rules for that development as well. So what I'm going to do is go through the project management things and see what I can do with those. So I'm going to start moving some of these over, I think, to the approved stage and then to the prepared stage once that's done. So assign this to myself. Add a little description. So I don't expect this to take me too long, so I'm just going to set it at 2 hours. Okay. I've also just remembered I've been forgetting to do my time tracking on some tasks, so I'll go through and edit that shortly. The due date, I will put this as today. I don't expect it to take any longer, and I don't want it to take any longer either. It's high priority, I'd say. Okay, so let's close that off. Actually, let's move it quickly across to the prepared stage. There we go. I need to do the same for these. One thing I'm going to do is with the upload schedule, I'm going to give Matthews more smaller tasks, because currently what I'm doing is I'm obviously managing this live stream, which is quite a big undertaking, so I have to do it pretty much every day apart from a Wednesday. It takes a big chunk out of my time to do it. Also, it takes a little bit of time to set up and everything, not too much time, but it's still time at the end of the day. I also have to upload it to Josh's end. I have to then download it once it's edited, and then also I manage all of the content uploads on YouTube as well. So Josh does a lot of the editing stuff. That takes him a while, but he has a workflow for that set out now. So if we do come up with any additional content releases, I think Josh will be doing that, simply because I do the blog. So I think it's only fair, really. So long as he's okay with it. Obviously, if he can't take on any additional workload, then fair enough. Again, I don't really expect this to take too long. I will set this one at I will say 1 hour. I've kind of done it plenty of times before. I know what to expect. I'll try and set the date for that to today. So that's high. Oh, sorry, not low. High priority. There we go. Got there in the end. And then I will move this across to the prepared stage. Just close it off. Create blog guidelines. I don't know if I'll get rid of this one actually. It's kind of pointless. I do the blog. I think the update video format's important because me and Josh kind of need to sit down and discuss how we really want to frame the update videos. That one is a task that needs doing. Blog guidelines though, I don't know, maybe... Yeah, I'd say it is important actually, taking the time to really nail down what it is we want to get out of the blogs and also how we want to deliver that content as well. So. And assign that to myself because I do all the project management stuff. So it may seem like Josh doesn't actually do a lot. He does, just to be clear. But I need to start populating tasks properly for him to do. He's already made starts on a lot of the jobs actually that I'm going to get him to do, but you know, it's more just me not having done the admin yet for that. I'm going to set the due date for Thursday. Priority. I'm actually doing a lot of admin this week, but I will make sure we're doing features as well. It won't just stop here. I'm just a bit reluctant to start on any new features at the moment, just because we're kind of moving into a new feature phase. And I always get a bit kind of apprehensive because it means doing a lot of kind of mental planning. It's not just like iterative feature development. It's like, okay, we need to design an entirely new system, which is not actually too difficult when you get down to it, but it's just the starting that's kind of tough, really, for me. That's prepared. I think that's everything. Let's close that off. You approved. Then assign that to myself. So this is developer, this is private, this is dev quality of life. There we go. Time tracking. This is a bit more of an undertaking because we really need to decide how, why, and when we want to do update videos. So I'm going to say this is a 4-hour job. It's a lot more involved than the other ones, and it involves me and Matthew sitting down together and really like hammering it out. So that in. Actually thinking about it, I don't know if that counts as double hours because 2 people are putting separate hours in, so I'm going to up that to 8. It's interesting when you frame it that way how it actually ends up looking like a lot of work when you've got to wrap up multiple people in a meeting. So that's quite... It's not really something I think about, but it is quite eye-opening, I suppose. It's not just, 4 hours, because there's 2 of us, it's actually 8 work hours, which is an entire day. Which obviously we don't want, but sometimes you have to do it. Priority is quite high on that, and I'll move that over to the prepared stage. There we go. Trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think there's any dependencies here. I don't think so again. Maybe for video format. Is blocked by upload schedule. Same with create blog guidelines. Let me see if there's any dependencies actually in terms of this. I guess there's a partial dependency between AI and prop interface. definitely with player control. Yeah, let me set those dependencies now. Prefabs is also blocked by props. The only reason I'm doing this, by the way, I mean they're not actually tasks in and of themselves, so it's not necessary to link them like this, but the only reason I'm doing this is so that we can really visualize what's going on in terms of our overall roadmap. I was by props. Like that. The props is the big kind of sticking point right now, actually. So all of these features need to be finalized ASAP, so I can move on to one of these two things. Player controller is kind of blocked by AI controller. Because a lot of the functionality that will be built for the player will come about as a result of the AI. So the needs system, priority system won't be engaged, decision system won't be engaged. The action system, however, will be something that can be interfaced with the player to some extent. So like movement, for example, will be loosely connected to the player controller. All of these systems will be disabled, of course, but the code that I write as part of those will be important and help the development of the player controller. Okay. So menus is kind of blocked by, let me think. I suppose it's not really blocked by anything, to be honest. Control scheme finalization is kind of blocked to some extent by certain things. Like this is kind of held up currently by I guess player controller ultimately. So I'll link that. I don't know if it will change at some point, but for now it kind of just makes sense to structure it that way. Because all these global features that we want to kind of implement in the code need to kind of happen once all the code is built, or at least certain features of the code are built. Editor UI, that's blocked by prefabs again. Find this to Josh. If it shows stuff on there. Doesn't make sense to really assign any of the labels I've got to these. Due dates I might put in. I don't know if it changes anything actually. It might do. Does that update anything on the board? Oh, it does. Okay. I will edit these at some point. I'll do them manually as well. I'll just give very, very loose estimates up to that point, and then we'll in. So content design is something that's kind of happening once everything else is built near enough. We do have some test stuff obviously in there, but content design mainly is blocked by, I think, editor UI, maybe menus as well actually. Yeah, I'd say menus is quite important, so I will say that is the main block right now. And what else did I say? So editor UI I don't think was blocked by, I know it's blocked by props. Menus is the thing that doesn't have anything at the start. Props was dependent on the voxel system, so I guess I'll put that in. Voxels was kind of the initial feature, so I guess I will put the time frame on that. Really took us a long time to get that base system built. So what I'll do is I'll put the start date. I can't remember exactly when it was that we started, but I know for a fact that work began very early on, but we did a lot of business stuff initially, so it would probably be in September time, if not a bit earlier. I'll just check the calendar quickly. I would say August, start of August, so let's say 1st of August was start date for that. Oops. Due date, I want all of the features kind of wrapped up on this. I'd say ideally by I don't know really, I don't want to have to work on it much. There is the optimization feature still outstanding, but it's not like a kind of essential component. So I'm going to say, I don't know if I should be brave and say the end of this month, because we've got a lot on this month.
I've got brains to burn, no ordinary AI in this ball.
I'll say end of this month. It's a big long one there. I don't know if I can zoom out at all. I can't. Prefab started relatively recently, actually finished quite quick. So here's an example of how systems development has picked up quite a lot. Voxel development took literally months because I was training myself on using the Unreal Engine. It was a pain in the arse. Didn't understand any of it. Documentation's crap. Spent a lot of time getting acclimated to it. And also like reacquainted with C++ developments. I haven't done that properly. I hadn't done that properly in a few months. Because of the holidays and all of that. So that took some time to get up to speed. The prop system, on the other hand, I think has taken me literally a month, maybe 2. So we've cut that development time frame down from 6 months to 2, which is massive. Obviously the prop system was a lot more complicated and a lot more involved, but hopefully you can see how far we've kind of come. We've probably cut down, realistically, development time in half, which is great. Now that I know how to work with the engine and all of that kind of thing. So again, let's click on the prop system. I'm going to set the start date as, I can't remember exactly when it was I started on it, but I'm going to say start of February. And the due date I want as, I mean most stuff's done to be honest, but I want the due date of end of the as well. So same due date as the end of the voxel system. I do not want to overextend this time frame any longer. What's this linked? Global feed. Oh, okay. So now I need to make a kind of difficult decision. I need to decide when it's suitable to start AI and at what point we do start it and for what reason. Because I could in theory start it immediately, but I don't know if I want to. I don't know if the engine's at a point where I'm happy with it. But then again, when will it be at a point that I'm happy with it? So I'm thinking I start over the next few days. I think I give myself till the end of the week to do any things that I want to do, which really gives me kind of a time frame to crunch on those things. And then I think I begin 16th of March. So let's say that that's the start date. I don't really have any wiggle room then, I can't really get out of it. That's when I'm going to begin the AI work, rather than start it now and overwhelm myself without any real planning. And the due date, I expect, will be, if I'm being optimistic, 2 months out from then. Realistically, probably 3. There's a lot of work that needs to go into it, and it's a lot of work that will be shared between player controller and the prefab system as well. So, I mean, it's a lot of stuff all in all. Let's say end of May. See where that puts us. Did I just put end of May? Wait, there we go. And that updated properly. So then that means oh sorry, I just edited the dates on the wrong thing. Great. Let's put that back to what it was before. When was it? Start of March. Sorry, start of February. And end date is this month. And realistically, if I'm saying end of this month, then maybe that's when I should start the AI work. Really work on nailing down some of the other essential pieces of this development cycle. Rather than rushing into AI, I feel like there's a lot of stuff I could do to finish up voxels and props kind of more cohesively, which would, at the end of the day, benefit the AIs. There's a lot of preparation work, like for physics and stuff, that needs to happen first. Yeah, so I'll do that, in fact. I know it's like, because realistically I'd be putting the same development work in anyway, it's just the way I'm thinking about it is slightly different. So like physics, for example, is something that does happen as part of the props system, but I would consider it part of my AI timeline, but instead I'm just being strict and saying this is part of the props system. This is part of the props schedule and it needs to be done before I begin actual AI work, which it does. So let's say this starts at the start of this month, but next month, 1st of April. And the due date for that would be many months until September? So 3 months after that until... Let's for now say... Starting in April we want 3 months, right? That's 1, 2, 3. That's a long time. Question is, can I do it? I'll say till end of June. If I could get it wrapped up by end of June, that would be great. So we have a lot of stuff happening around then, so we're actually moving in around June time. We have 3 weeks where we technically don't have a home, which is kind of annoying. So, let's see how that goes. Player controller will happen as development as part of the kind of real last quarter that we'll be working on the project. I think the player controller, most of the foundational work will have been done in the AI controller. So, I don't really want it to take any longer than a month, in all honesty. I want the AI and the player to behave in a similar way, and the work that happens in each to affect both. So, let's say that only takes a month, ideally. This needs to start in July. With due date being end of July. Obviously these time frames may actually change depending on like when in the week it is and all of that. So global features I will put at the tail end of the character development thing. Thanks. Just a single notification that just says Instagram on it. Thanks Windows. Great. So start date would be after July, so in August. And due date, I actually don't expect it to take that long, probably just a week. Then again, I did have some issues with some global features recently, but they're done now, so not really sure. The global thing is kind of something that happens constantly, I guess. It doesn't actually really have a roadblock. What did I put in terms of tasks on this? Role scheme finalization. Okay, so I guess it is. Also need proper play testing and everything. That's a global feature as well. So yeah, I'd say maybe a month. There's a lot that goes into it that I didn't really consider. Obviously these time frames are probably going to change, in all honesty. Menus. We're waiting on the prefab system, really. Have I not set a due date for this? I don't know if I want to complete the prefab work before the AI work, but having done this, it actually has kind of highlighted to me that a lot is dependent on it, because while we technically can do the menus first, it doesn't make sense to do a lot of the menu and editor UI work while the prefab system is done. So, where I make the difficult decision to decide I continue with this work or I swap onto. think prefabs are quite essential. I will put it at the start of April for now. I don't want it to take any longer than a month. More than likely it will, but I don't want it to. Oops, wrong one. No, wrong month. There we go. Because I've done a lot of prop work already, and I feel like prefabs is just a matter of reusing. It's kind of just like reusing control UI and saving features that I've already done, so it really shouldn't take any longer than a month. Maybe to polish it in terms of actual UI development, sure. Like Josh, for example, might have to do a lot of work on that, but not really sure. So we'll put this at the beginning of May. So this is the stuff that Josh will kind of be doing, other Josh. So yeah, let's start that at 1st of May. Probably take him... No, to get all the UI stuff done, it could take him a month, it could take him 2, in all honesty. So I'm gonna say June time. And then for menus shouldn't take any longer than a month. Really. Menus is kind of blocked by editor UI work, so I'm just going to put that dependency in there now. Doesn't mean I want to reorder this actually. Yeah. Let's close that. Yeah, for menus, assign that to Joshua Matthews. I want this to take place after June, so start of July time. Shouldn't take him any longer than a month, so end of July. I would say anyway, I don't actually know, but I presume it does take longer, it's not the end of the world. Content design. Now content design should in theory be the easiest part of this process because we're building an editor entirely for content design. It should be relatively fun to be honest, so I don't think it will take us but it is something you can do continually as well. Assign that to Matthews. Start date should be in August. With the due date being probably September really. I mean we're designing this content to release with the game, so let's say end of September. For our September launch. I'm in fact going to do something slightly different. I'm going to reduce this to a month and then reduce the other timeframes based on that. It's easy to it the other day. Yeah. Actually, probably easy. I should have been doing it this way the entire time. Right, so marketing. So marketing has been happening since Christmas. It has been slow and steady, in all honesty. It's not really been going anywhere, but I will put this as the start of Jan, since that's when we did our major content rework. Marketing is something that we'll be doing continuously, of course. It isn't technically really blocked by anything, but certain things do hinder it. But I don't think I'll put a dependency in there. Networking, we're really starting on Insomnia, so date for that. Let me just check the board quickly. 10th to the 14th. We're going, I think, on the last 2 days. That'll be 12th of on the 12th of April there, and then we will try and do networking continually up to release. There we go. Finance we are going to start this week actually, so so at this point I'm not really sure how to organise the finance thing, but we definitely do need most of our finance before Insomnia. So that's how I'll kind of schedule it, and obviously starting, when's this week? So 10th of the 3rd, so let's put that up to yesterday, because we were supposed to have started it yesterday. I need to send an email off actually. Kind of want that to continue though. This is definitely dependent actually on the finance request. I'm just going to reorder these quickly, and on here just put is blocked by. Let's close that up. Project management is happening this week as well, hopefully, so project management's kind of happening continually, but it's only just started last week. So let's say the start of March. And extend that all the way up to yeah. Now the website. Now this is something that's kind of difficult. We want to have stuff registered before Insomnia, so I'm probably going to put that at the start of, but the development will be continual, and hopefully by release we have something resembling a good website, a semi-complete website. Whether or not that will happen, however, is another matter entirely. I don't know why it's just gone all the way over there. Really isn't helpful at all. Or at least it's a ballpark there. I'll put that there just for continuity's sake. Now this isn't to say obviously that some of these tasks won't happen out of order. We won't do them alongside other ones, like voxel work for example is still going to be ongoing. However, it is mainly done. Like in terms of its minimum viable product, it is basically there. We're happy to call it kind of, reluctant to say complete at this stage, but it is kind of. So I think this gives us somewhat of a solid roadmap, but I do need to run this by Matthews at some point. So from this, I guess it gives me a good opportunity to really reprioritize my work. Think that up. Prop work will continue month, so hopefully that gives me some additional time to work on preemptive AI features, so things that I will kind of want done before I actually start working on the AI itself, which means it should take less time overall to work on the AI system. This breaks this up quite nicely actually. The prefab system editor UI is actually getting done sooner. I don't know why I put this away in May. Yes, because we need to wait for the prefab system to happen, but it will happen alongside. So what I'm going to do is put, it technically was going on with the voxel system, so I'm going to put the deadline for that when the prefab system finishes, and also put date back here, so we have already started to work on it. I don't know if we can change this relationship here though. For a different keyword, maybe I can use different terminology. Oh, I think there was an is linked to keyword. See if I can. Oops, did not want to do that. I can actually start linking stuff as well. Get rid of that, remove, add a new one in. Relates to voxels. I don't know how that shows up actually. Yes, it doesn't. Relates to, and then we'll add the next one in. Props link, and then we'll put the last one in. Relates to prefabs. There we go. It's not created any visual distinction, which is disappointing, but oh. And then I can do the same for the other things. Move this work all the way back. Can move content design all the way back as well. Give Josh more time on that basically. Potentially instead I could put website development on there. I'm not sure. I don't know if I can compress these development timeframes anymore. Props, not really, so still have things to do. Prefabs, that will likely take, you know, best part of a month. Might be able to get it done sooner. Well, hopefully. AI controller, I don't think I can get it done in less than 2 months. If anything, it's going to be 3. Player controller could be quite quick. It might be relatively... I don't know. It's one of those where I'm not quite sure yet, because I'm not sure what functionality I'm going to have built into the AI controller. I'm not sure how much of that is going to be able to extend over to player controller. Global features, I might... Yeah, I'm going to remove that link. I'm going to put it all the way back to when I started this March currently. And I'm going to remove this relationship and change what it is. So it's going to be relates to instead, but it's going to be like literally relates to everything. So let's remove that. Link. This is really slowing down. I think I need to refresh this. Relates to well, it relates to literally everything in the game really. So voxels, link, relate to props, link, relates to prefabs, link, relates to what else have we got? AI controller. Player controller. It's a UI. There we go. So that's all the things it links to. Close that off. So as you can see, there's a lot. There's a lot of overlap. Also, this is a very, very optimistic estimate. This is missing out some of the features that I know I have to put in. For example, like multiple saves is an important one. Not even listed in here, so there's scenes that need to be added really. It's a good category to have, and it also means I can clean up some other stuff. Yeah, needs to happen after prefab. See what stuff I can put in here. Probably some stuff from props, to be honest. Tick mode, play mode tick handler can definitely be moved. That is a generic feature that's kind of true for all of them. Also play mode state machine as well. Sorry about that, I was just replying to a message. So I dealt with props, let me just have a here. So these can actually be removed since they're technically duplicate issues. I will obviously need to break it up into voxel and prop tick mode, but they'll be handled in the same way. I think there's anything in here. Maybe in menus actually. Definitely, so some of this stuff can be moved. Obviously there will need to be a component of this handled through the UI, but that's something that Josh will be doing separately, and it should be something that would be called something slightly different. Either I'll have to repopulate these tasks in menu after having changed them, course needs to change. Don't know why I didn't do this one first. So scenes code and menu code, what I'm actually going to do is get them to run in parallel. So Josh will be doing most of the menu work, I will of course be doing most of the scene work, and then we'll link those two up. But it's just a nice distinction between this is the wrapper around the scene itself, and Josh is working on the things that control the changes between the scenes. Right, those scenes will be linked by the same thing that menus is, which I think, yeah, editor UI. Move that across. We'll have the same deadline. So this one will be assigned to Matthews. This one will be assigned to myself. Oops. Thing, that's not what I wanted. Wish there was a back button on this. I don't think that. No. I don't know if that'll have refreshed it, hopefully. It'll speed things up a bit. Scenes. Signing. Myself. This one also needs to have a blocked issue here. Okay. So yeah, I think that's more of a nice breakdown. Let me just go back into menus quickly. Button state code, yeah, that's for every menu. Play scene, save UI. Actually, this can be moved back, this one. Because load scene code under the hood will be identical. Same with this editor, it can be consolidated into one thing. This one can be deleted. Just really a matter of consolidating and cleaning up these two and kind of really drawing the distinction between the two and what they both mean. To really kind of highlight what I actually mean by that. So this is load play scene as opposed to load editor. I also need play mode code. Don't need to put code in there since it's kind of obvious what it means. Yeah, I think that covers my bases more now. There's also a bug that I wanted to introduce to one of these. Kind of technically a global feature, but it's mainly affects the prop system right now. Actually, yeah, I'll add it to global features because it covers all areas and I want to make sure that it's implemented into everything. Because there's a bug that I rediscovered recently, which it affected the voxel system originally, where if you were, say, doing brush strokes up against the edge of the world boundary, it would sometimes do an out of array bounds check, which would obviously crash the code because you can't access outside of the array bounds. But it was reintroduced again with the prop system, so I didn't do the same checks that I used to fix it in the first place. I need to go through all of my code and ensure that those are re-implemented. That's fine. Can't think of anything else currently. Oh, in part of scenes I wanted to add in multiple saves. So that's just being able to name them different things, save them to the appropriate location, etc, etc. Right, so I think that's everything that I actually wanted to cover. I just want to see if there's a nicer way to view this quickly. Quarters. It's quite a long list, it's not really easy to see all in one view. Oh no, it does actually fit perfectly in one view, that's nice. So this is our completed roadmap. So it does look very weighted towards one end, which is why we're trying to bring on an additional team member so that they can pick up some of the additional tasks, such as well, the website's a big one, and also some of the marketing stuff as well. So if we can get those two picked up by somebody else and they can do that full time, that would help us massively, like you have no idea. Because basically marketing is one of those things that you can potentially sink infinite hours into. There's no complete state of marketing. You either market small or you market big, and the size that you can market to is massive. So with website networking and marketing, the kind of sky is the limit. Website's kind of like a thing that you can call done and dusted, but with the other two it's like you can do as much as you can fit time into. So if we were to get someone to pick those up, it would be ideal. I think we can comfortably, me and Josh can comfortably juggle 2 or 3 things each at any given time. So I'm obviously doing the project management stuff. Global features is not really something I consider at any given point, but the other features, of course, and also I do a little bit of the financing as well. Josh is doing the UI stuff and a bit of the marketing stuff with and also networking as well. So we're trying to limit our responsibilities at the moment, if possible. If we can find someone else to fill those roles, then that would be great. I need to basically show this roadmap to somebody that we've been talking to, see if they'd be happy to pick up those responsibilities. More than likely they won't be. But if anyone watching this wants to get involved or knows anyone that might do, then get in touch, please, because we desperately want someone to bring onto the team that we both get along with, that would be all in on kind of helping us out. And also it would be ideal if someone kind of knew the project already, maybe watch some of the videos that we do, watch the podcast, is friends with us, that kind of thing. But I think we're at the point now where we need to start considering outside options, and that's why I'm asking people, if you guys know anyone or would be interested yourself, then yeah, let us know. I need to go run this by Josh, so if he's in currently, I will go show this off to him. I also need to do some other video work, which I won't do on stream, so I've done it before, and in between other stuff. Sorry, I haven't actually done any development work today, but this kind of had to come first because I knew that things are a bit disorganised at the moment and there wasn't a proper roadmap for me to follow. So now this kind of gives me a clear breakdown of what I need to prioritise, and I will start populating tasks based on that off of Livestream now that I've shown you their overview. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.